Stop chasing success. Because the moment you chase it, you admit you don't understand how it actually works. If you want a slightly shorter version for reels or shorts, stop chasing success. It only runs from people who don't understand it, or a calm authority version for morning motivation. If you're chasing success, you've already misunderstood it. Let me tell you something most people never hear. Success is not running from you. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to beg for it. You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to catch it. Because the moment you chase success, you admit something dangerous, that you believe it's outside of you. And anything you chase controls you. See, successful people don't run faster. They stand differently. They don't ask, how do I get more? They ask, who do I need to become? Because results are attracted, not hunted. Most people are busy chasing money, chasing validation, chasing applause, but chasing creates pressure. Pressure creates anxiety. Anxiety destroys clarity, and clarity is the real currency. You don't get paid for how hard you work. You get paid for how much value you bring to the marketplace. If effort created wealth, construction workers would be billionaires. If hustle guaranteed success, burnout would be impossible. But that's not how life works. Value solves problems. Problems create demand. Demand creates income. That's the equation. Here's a truth that might challenge you. Your life will never rise above your identity. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe you deserve. If you see yourself as average, you'll sabotage extraordinary opportunities. If you see yourself as powerless, you'll avoid responsibility. If you see yourself as a victim, you'll resent success instead of learning from it. So stop asking, why isn't it working? And start asking, who am I showing up as every day? Discipline is the bridge most people refuse to cross. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is spiritual. Motivation waits for a feeling. Discipline moves on principle. Successful people don't feel like doing what? They do. They do it because it's who they are. They don't negotiate with their future. They honor it. Let me free you from another lie. Working harder is not the answer. Thinking higher is. Most people are tired because they're climbing the wrong ladder. They're solving problems that don't scale. They're trading time instead of multiplying value. If you want different results, you don't need more hours. You need better questions. Ask better questions, and life gives better answers. And finally, hear this carefully. Success starts inside. Always. Before the money shows up, the mindset must show up. Before the doors open, the belief must open. Before the reward arrives, the responsibility must be accepted. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are in alignment with. So stop chasing success. Build character, increase value, sharpen your thinking, serve at a higher level. And one day you'll look up and realize success didn't run from you. It followed you. Success is not something you chase. It's something you attract. And the reason this truth is so hard for most people to accept is because chasing feels like effort, and effort feels noble. We were taught that if we just run faster, work harder, sacrifice more, then one day success will finally let us catch it. But chasing success puts you in a position of lack. It silently communicates that you believe success is outside of you, ahead of you, reserved for someone else. And whatever you place above yourself will always control you. Think about it. When you chase something, it runs, not because it's cruel, but because chasing creates imbalance. Success responds to alignment, not anxiety. It responds to value, not desperation. You don't attract success by wanting it badly. You attract it by becoming the kind of person it naturally gravitates toward. The world doesn't reward need, it rewards contribution. Most people spend their lives trying to get more instead of becoming more. They wake up focused on outcomes instead of identity. But results are simply a reflection of who you are consistently being. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to the level of your self-image. If your identity doesn't change, your circumstances won't either, even if opportunities appear. That's why some people self-sabotage right when things start working. Their results outgrow their beliefs. Success follows a predictable pattern. First comes clarity, then competence, then confidence, and only after that comes compensation. When you reverse that order and chase money, status, or recognition first, you create pressure without preparation. Pressure breaks people who haven't built the internal capacity to carry success. That's why attraction is safer than pursuit. Attraction allows growth to happen before reward arrives. When you focus on creating value, success has no choice but to respond. Value solves problems, and problems create demand. Demand is what the marketplace pays for. Effort alone is invisible, value is undeniable. Two people can work the same number of hours, yet one is rewarded exponentially more, not because they are luckier, but because they are solving a bigger problem or doing it at a higher level. The marketplace doesn't ask how tired you are, it asks how useful you are. Attraction also requires patience and discipline, not emotional discipline, but principled discipline. Doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching, even when results are slow, even when praise is absent. This kind of discipline shapes character, and character sustains success. Anything you get before you're ready becomes a burden. Anything you attract after preparation becomes a blessing. The moment you stop chasing success, you reclaim your power. You stop reacting and start building. You stop comparing and start refining. You stop asking, why not me? And start asking, how can I increase my value today? That shift changes everything. Because success doesn't show up for people who are frantic, it shows up for people who are focused. It doesn't respond to noise, it responds to substance. In the end, success is a byproduct. It's the shadow cast by purpose, discipline, and value moving in the same direction. Chase it, and it disappears. Align with it, and it follows you quietly, consistently, and on its own terms. Your identity determines your income and outcomes long before your skills, your strategy, or your circumstances ever get a vote. The way you see yourself quietly dictates the decisions you make, the standards you tolerate, and the opportunities you allow into your life. You don't behave according to what you want, you behave according to who you believe you are. And that belief operates whether you are conscious of it or not. Most people think results come from effort, but effort is only an expression of identity. Two people can be given the same opportunity, the same tools, and the same information, yet walk away with completely different results. The difference is not intelligence or luck. The difference is self-perception. One sees themselves as someone who figures things out, who adapts, who takes responsibility. The other sees themselves as someone who waits, doubts, and hopes things work out. Their identities choose their actions before their minds ever explain them. Your income is not random. It is a mirror. It reflects the problems you believe you are capable of solving and the level at which you believe you can solve them. People don't get paid more because they work harder. They get paid more because they see themselves as capable of carrying greater responsibility. When your identity expands, your tolerance for complexity increases. You begin to solve higher level problems, and higher level problems produce higher level compensation. Outcomes follow the same rule. If you see yourself as someone who finishes what they start, you will persist when things get uncomfortable. If you see yourself as someone who avoids risk, you will retreat the moment uncertainty appears. Over time, these small identity-based decisions compound into patterns, and those patterns become a life. What looks like fate from the outside is often just identity being expressed consistently. This is why change feels so difficult. You can change habits temporarily, but if they are not aligned with identity, they won't last. You can force discipline for a while, but eventually you will drift back to what feels familiar. Real transformation happens when your identity changes first. When you no longer say, I'm trying to do better, but instead say, this is who I am now. That shift removes friction. Actions that once felt hard begin to feel natural. Your environment responds to your identity as well. People treat you according to the standards you project. The world takes cues from how you show up. When you see yourself as valuable, you communicate value without saying a word. When you see yourself as uncertain, you invite doubt. Confidence is not arrogance. It is clarity about who you are and what you bring. That clarity creates trust, and trust opens doors. The most dangerous identity is the one formed by past failures. Many people unconsciously live as a former version of themselves all owing old mistakes to define present decisions. But your past does not get a vote in who you are becoming unless you give it one. Identity is not fixed, it is chosen. Every day you reinforce it through the promises you keep to yourself and the standards you refuse to lower. If you want different income, different outcomes, a different life, you must first upgrade the way you see yourself. Not through affirmations disconnected from action, but through evidence created by disciplined behavior. Each time you do what you said you would do, your identity strengthens. Each time you avoid responsibility, it weakens. Over time, your self-image adjusts to match your behavior, and your results adjust to match your self-image. You will never consistently outperform the person you believe yourself to be. But the moment you redefine that belief, everything changes. Your choices elevate, your expectations rise, and your outcomes follow. Because identity is the foundation, and everything built on top of it can only rise as high as it allows. Value creation is the shortcut everyone ignores because it doesn't feel like a shortcut. It doesn't promise instant results, viral moments, or overnight success. It requires thinking, patience, and responsibility. 3 things most people avoid while searching for faster outcomes. So instead, they chase tactics, trends, and surface-level strategies, hoping something external will finally change their situation. But value has always been the real lever behind progress, wealth, and influence. The world does not reward activity, it rewards usefulness. You can be busy all day and still be irrelevant. You can work long hours and still struggle. That's because effort without value is noise. The marketplace does not pay for how tired you are or how much you sacrificed. It pays for problem solved. And the bigger the problem you solve, or the more efficiently you solve it, the more valuable you become. This principle never changes, regardless of industry, economy, or era. Most people ignore value creation because it forces an uncomfortable question. Who am I helping, and how well am I helping them? It's easier to focus on appearance, looking successful, sounding confident, staying occupied, than to do the deep work of improving skills, thinking better, and increasing competence. Value creation requires humility. It requires admitting that your current results match your current level of usefulness, not your potential, intentions, or desires. When you shift your focus from getting to giving, everything accelerates. Instead of asking, how can I make more money? You ask, how can I make myself more useful? That single shift removes frustration and replaces it with clarity. Money becomes a byproduct instead of a target. Opportunities show up because people are always searching for solutions, not resumes. The person who brings clarity, efficiency, or relief to a problem will always be in demand. Value compounds quietly. Each skill you develop increases your leverage. Each insight you gain improves your judgment. Each problem you solve expands your reputation. Over time, these layers stack, and what once felt slow suddenly feels exponential. From the outside, it looks like a breakthrough. From the inside, it's simply accumulated value reaching visibility. Ignoring value creation also keeps people trapped in competition. When you offer the same thing as everyone else, price becomes the only differentiator. But when you create unique value, comparison disappears. You are no longer competing, you are chosen. The marketplace does not negotiate with people who are replaceable. It rewards those who are rare, reliable, and effective. Value creation also builds confidence that no motivation ever could. When you know you see and solve problems, you stop chasing approval. You walk differently. You speak with clarity, not arrogance, but certainty. That confidence attracts trust, and trust multiplies opportunity. This is why the most valuable people are often the calmest. They know their worth because they have evidence. The shortcut was never speed, it was direction. Pouring energy into value moves you forward even when progress feels invisible. Chasing outcomes drains you. Creating value strengthens you. One leads to exhaustion, the other leads to expansion, and over time, the person who committed to value creation will pass everyone who was busy chasing results. In the end, value creation is ignored because it demands responsibility before reward. But for those willing to embrace it, it becomes the only shortcut that actually works because it never expires, never depends on trends, and never fails to pay back more than it costs. Discipline beats motivation every time because motivation is emotional, and emotions are unreliable. Motivation rises and falls with mood, energy, and circumstances. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision made in advance. It does not wait for the right feeling, the right timing, or the right conditions. It moves because it has already decided who it is going to be, regardless of how it feels in the moment. Most people build their lives on motivation, and that is why their progress is inconsistent. They act when they feel inspired and stop when they don't. This creates a cycle of starting strong and finishing weak. Discipline breaks that cycle. Discipline shows up on ordinary days. It works in silence. It does not need excitement or encouragement. It relies on structure, standards, and commitment, not emotion. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this today? Discipline asks, what does the future I want require of me right now? That difference changes everything. When you rely on motivation, you give power to temporary feelings. When you rely on discipline, you give power to long-term vision. One trades comfort for progress. The other trades progress for comfort. Discipline also creates momentum. Small, consistent actions performed daily compound into massive results over time. You don't need heroic effort. You need repeated effort. The person who improves slightly every day will outperform the person who waits for the perfect moment. Discipline removes the drama from success. It turns growth into a process instead of a performance. There is also a deeper truth. Discipline shapes identity. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's uncomfortable, you reinforce self-trust. That trust becomes confidence, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that doesn't shake when conditions change. Motivation may make you feel powerful for a moment, but discipline makes you reliable. And reliability is what creates real results. Many people avoid discipline because they associate it with restriction. But discipline is not punishment, it is freedom. It frees you from indecision, excuses, and regret. It reduces mental clutter because you no longer debate with yourself. The decision has already been made. This clarity conserves energy, allowing you to focus on execution instead of internal conflict. Discipline also protects you during difficult seasons. When life becomes chaotic or stressful, motivation disappears first. Discipline remains. It carries you through days when progress feels invisible and effort feels heavy. This is where most people quit, not because they can't succeed, but because they don't yet have systems strong enough to support them without emotion. Motivation responds to rewards. Discipline responds to values. When your actions are tied to who you choose to be, not how, you feel consistency becomes inevitable. You stop needing external pressure. You no longer wait to be pushed. You move because stopping would violate your standards. Over time, discipline produces something motivation never can: stability. Results become predictable. Growth becomes sustainable. You stop swinging between extremes of effort and rest. Instead, you move forward steadily, even quietly, while others burn out chasing inspiration. In the end, motivation is a spark, but discipline is the engine. Sparks fade quickly. Engines carry you far. If you want a life that grows regardless of mood, circumstance, or season, discipline will beat motivation every time because it doesn't depend on feelings. It depends on choice, and choice is always available. Stop working harder and start thinking higher because effort without direction only creates exhaustion. Many people are tired not because they lack discipline, but because they are applying their energy to problems that don't move their life forward. Hard work is only powerful when it is guided by clear thinking. Without that, it becomes a trap, one that keeps you busy but not progressing. Most people were taught that harder work is the answer to every challenge. If something isn't working, the solution must be more hours, more sacrifice, more struggle. But effort alone does not guarantee improvement. It often guarantees repetition. You can work hard every day and still stay in the same place if your thinking never changes. Progress comes from leverage, not labor. Thinking higher means stepping back and questioning assumptions. It means asking why something must be done a certain way instead of automatically accepting it. High-level thinking looks for causes instead of symptoms. It focuses on decisions, systems, and strategy rather than constant execution. When you think higher, you stop solving the same problem over and over and start eliminating it entirely. Working harder usually means trading time for output. Thinking higher means multiplying impact. Time is finite. Thinking is expandable. A single insight can outperform years of effort applied in the wrong direction. This is why some people seem to move faster with less visible effort. They are not working less, they are working smarter by thinking better first. Higher thinking also changes the quality of problems you face. Low-level thinking reacts. High-level thinking anticipates. When you think higher, you design your life instead of constantly responding to it. You build systems that reduce friction, routines that create consistency, and decisions that compound over time. This reduces stress and increases clarity, allowing effort to be focused where it actually matters. Many people avoid thinking higher because it requires responsibility. It's easier to stay busy than to confront the possibility that you've been solving the wrong problem. Hard work feels safe because it looks productive. Deep thinking feels risky because it challenges identity, habits, and comfort. But growth demands discomfort before it delivers relief. Thinking higher also requires patience. Insights are not always immediate, and results may not be visible right away. But once they appear, they change everything. When you understand leverage, you stop asking how to do more and start asking what matters most. You stop reacting to urgency and start prioritizing importance. This shift doesn't eliminate hard work, it refines it. Effort becomes intentional instead of automatic. You work with purpose, not pressure. You begin to measure success by outcomes, not exhaustion. The goal is no longer to be the hardest worker in the room, but the most effective thinker. When you think higher, you reclaim your energy. You stop wasting it on tasks that don't align with your goals. You gain clarity, and clarity creates confidence. Decisions become simpler because they are guided by principles, not emotions or habits. This is where real momentum begins. In the end, working harder will only take you so far. Thinking higher changes the path entirely. It transforms effort into leverage, time into opportunity, and struggle into strategy. If you want different results, don't just push harder. Pause, elevate your thinking, and choose a smarter direction forward. Success is an inside job before it ever shows outside. And this is the part most people overlook because it's invisible, uncomfortable, and slow. Everyone sees the outcome, the money, the confidence, the opportunities, but very few see the internal work that made those results inevitable. Long before success becomes visible, it takes shape in the way a person thinks, decides, and responds to pressure when no one is watching. External results are always downstream from internal alignment. Your habits come from your beliefs. Your actions come from your self-image. Your consistency comes from your values. If these inner elements are unstable, no strategy can save you. You might experience temporary wins, but they won't last. Anything built on an unprepared mindset eventually collapses under its own weight. Most people try to change their lives from the outside in. They chase new environments, new tools, new tactics, hoping something external will finally fix what feels missing. But the truth is, if your internal framework doesn't change, your environment will eventually bend back to match who you believe you are. This is why people repeat patterns even when circumstances improve. The inner world always wins. Success begins with clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you stand for, and what you're willing to tolerate. Confusion inside creates chaos outside. When your thoughts are scattered, your actions are inconsistent. When your standards are unclear, your boundaries disappear. But when your inner world becomes organized, your external world follows suit. Order inside produces order outside. An inside job also means emotional mastery. Not the absence of fear, doubt, or frustration, but the ability to move forward without being controlled by them. Successful people feel the same emotions as everyone else. They just don't let those emotions dictate their behavior. They've trained their inner world to respond instead of react. That skill alone separates progress from stagnation. Belief plays a critical role here. Not surface-level optimism, but deep conviction formed through evidence and experience. You don't believe your way into action, you act your way into belief. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, your internal confidence grows. Each time you avoid responsibility, it shrinks. Over time, your self-trust becomes either your strongest asset or your biggest limitation. Success also requires internal patience. Impatience destroys more potential than failure ever could. When your inner world is anchored, you don't panic when results are slow. you understand that growth is happening even when progress isn't visible. This patience allows consistency, and consistency is what turns effort into outcomes when success is built from the inside. External pressure loses its power. Criticism doesn't derail you. Praise doesn't inflate you. Circumstances don't control you. You operate from principles, not emotions. This stability is rare, and because it's rare, it's valuable. People trust those who are internally grounded because they are predictable in the best way. Eventually, the outside catches up. Opportunities align. Results compound. What looks like sudden success to others is simply the delayed reflection of internal work done over time. Nothing appears out of nowhere. It shows up when the inner foundation is strong enough to support it. If you want lasting success, don't start by chasing outcomes. Start by building alignment. Your thinking, your habits, your standards, your discipline. Fix the inside, and the outside will follow. It always does. In closing, remember this. Success is not something you hunt down or force into your life. It is something you become ready for. When your thinking is elevated, your discipline is consistent, your identity is aligned, and your focus is on creating real value, success has nowhere else to go but toward you. The outside world is only responding to the work you've done on the inside. So stop measuring your progress by how busy you are or how hard you're pushing. Measure it by how clearly you think, how faithfully you act on principle, and how intentionally you grow each day. Commit to becoming the person who can handle the results you want, not just the person who desires them. If you do that, quietly, consistently, without chasing applause, success will arrive in its own time, not as a surprise, but as confirmation. Confirmation that when you built the inside first, the outside had no choice but to follow.